A time audit is not something I came up with, but really it's, we audit financials by looking back and making sure everything's in the right place and everything's categorized right and everything is what it's supposed to be. A time audit's very similar. You're going to look at how you spend your time. You're going to look at the things that's going on. Now, it's hard to go backwards in time to do these things. So really it's about moving forward. So that's one of the differences in a time audit.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about overwhelm. I know a lot of people that are trying to do more and more and add more to this. They have big goals this year, but more often than not, they end up feeling overwhelmed. And so how do you stop this feeling of overwhelm? I had a client of mine who came to me one day and we were chatting and he's like, I feel like even on Monday, I start feeling behind. And it's not a powerful way to lead your company and really push yourself to that next level. Hi, my name is Gene Hammett. I work with executives, founders of fast growth companies, most of them on the Inc. 5000, and I help them as a leadership coach and executive coach. We also do leadership development with managers, and we help them become the leaders that the team needs and that they really want to be. All that being said, if you feel like we could help you with any of these things, make sure you reach out. We take on a few clients every year. Right now, we have a full roster of everything. It's really amazing to be able to do this. But I wanted to share back some of the tools that we use inside of my coaching practice where we help people stop the feeling of overwhelm and really help them prioritize what's most important and really get more energy out of the work that they're doing and feel more valued and appreciated. So this works for CEOs, of course. This works for executives. This works for managers, leaders, really anyone who is feeling overwhelmed will get some value out of this tool that we're going to introduce called the time audit. A time audit is not something I came up with, but really it's, we audit financials by looking back and making sure everything's in the right place and everything's categorized right and everything is what it's supposed to be. A time audit's very similar. You're going to look at how you spend your time. You're going to look at the things that's going on. Now, it's hard to go backwards in time to do these things. So really, it's about moving forward. So that's one of the differences in a time audit. But we're going to unpack some of the tools that I use inside my coaching practice to help you stop the feeling of overwhelm. So one of the first things that I want to be able to introduce here is we know that we have tasks to do. We have things that are on our list. I have things I need to get done today. I'm sure you do as well. And if you're really clear about what those things are, you can easily just jump in and just start working on it. And that works for a time period until you feel like you're taking on a new project and there's something else or something runs behind. This happens a lot in my world, probably yours as well, is things just don't finish as quickly as you think they will. In fact, some of the bigger projects take 2 or 3 times as long. And so I plan for 3x on a project that's not, call the doctor and set an appointment, but I plan for 3x what I actually think it should take. And I'm pleasantly surprised when it comes in under. I'm not surprised when many times it's coming in right at that 3x of that initial estimate. But I digress a little bit, but I just want to let you know that I deal with this as well. The time audit requires you to be able to zoom in to look at the things that you're doing, but also zoom out. It gives you a way to really organize what's going on inside your world. And so I'm going to share with you just a few things that I do inside my calendar and inside my time audits. One of the things that I do is I'm going to create a little video for you and I'm going to put it up on the screen about what's going on in my calendar, but I color code it. I use certain colors to represent where I'm spending my time. And so I can look at it at a glance. And I do this every week. This is not part of the time audit, but this is just something that if you've never done it before, you can include this in is, break it up into 3 or 4 or 5 categories. Maybe it's, if you're a CEO, it might be new business. It might be current team. It might be admin work. It might be visionary work. It might be personal time. And so you could have 5 categories. You really need to pick the categories that fit for you. I run a podcast. So one of my categories is podcasting. And What I do is I use Google Calendar. You can do this in the other as well, but you can just pick a color for that. Google has actually changed the names, allows you to edit the names, so you can actually do that. So it really is an interesting way to look at your calendar. So it just gives you a real bird's eye view of what's going on in your world. Because here's the reality: if you really want to figure out what's going on in someone's world, all you have to do is look at their calendar. I was listening to a podcast this morning with James Clear and Tim Ferriss, and there was something that came up, and I'm paraphrasing with this because I don't have my notes in front of me, but it was if people could look at just your actions and not your words, what would they tell you is most important? And so you want to be able to have that kind of eye into your calendar and what's going on. So this time audit, one step you can do is color coding, picking the categories that work for you, colorize it, and so that you can look backwards. You can easily do that backwards. You can do that forwards. I do it as a regular part of my practice of doing this, and it just allows me to see at a glance where I'm spending my time and energy. So here's a look at my calendar. You'll see red is in, clients are in red, and my team is in blue. You will see I've got certain things I'm holding. I have my own coaching calls on Thursdays. Those are in pink. I do podcast on, if I go back a couple of weeks, you'll see podcast are in purple. And there's a lot of things on here. I use this to see how I'm spending my time. Things come in naturally as blue. But what's really interesting, if we go back to today, if I was putting this in here, I would say podcast, and I would be able to color code this with purple, and it shows up in here. So I might say I spent 30 minutes on this, and I might go in here and put in there energy is a 2. I'll say +2, focus +3, because I can't do anything else but just do this. And then I would say this is a $2,000 task, but the only reason I put it in there's 2,000. You'll see, and the reason what this is later is because I see this as something that lives on forever, and I will use it with clients. And so this would be one way I would track this if I were using my calendar. Just as an example, I put this in there today so that help you see what I'm talking about. The second part of this is for you to be able to track probably in 15-minute increments, not your bathroom times, not your, eating times per se, but, when you're actually working, how many hours are you actually working, and what are you doing inside that time? You want to make sure that you're really accurate with this. About 2 weeks usually is about enough for you to give the insights you need. You can probably do it in less, but I want you to be really honest with yourself. You might do it with a notebook. If you like Moleskin type notebooks, that works. You can use a spreadsheet. You can actually use your calendar. There's different ways that you can do this. So those are 3 different options that you can do the time audit. The first thing you want to track in there, besides the tasks that you're doing, is does this task give you energy or take it away? The energy is a really important piece, because I find that we're doing things all the time that either give us energy or take energy away. And sometimes we have to do the things that take energy away, but I want you to just be really intentional about that. One way to do that is by giving yourself a 0, 1, or 2 score. A 0 would be it drains your energy. You could give yourself a -1 if you want to. You could also give yourself a 1 if it's kind of moderate, and 2 would be it gives me a lot of energy. And so you can figure out what works for you. But tracking with every task is a great way for you to be able to zoom out and look at the bigger patterns of what's going on, and being able to identify this right after you finish the task. Did this give me energy, or did it take it away? And so the next step inside this would be your focus level. How focused were you inside that moment? So if you work for 30 minutes on a project and you got it done, was it because you were focused or because you weren't? You can give yourself a 1, 2, or 3 on that. 1, 0 as well. I use these numbers, or you can use letters if you feel like it, because I want you to be able to really categorize this. I actually use some little emoji type things where I have a key, and the key tells me what they mean inside my calendar for certain things. It's mostly new sales and activity inside our business, because that's where I'm interacting with a lot of other people. We have a whole team behind us. So you want to make sure that you're tracking your energy, and then your focus inside that moment. And then finally, there's a tool that I have used for years with clients and whatnot. Todd Herman is a fantastic coach. He works a lot of sports athletes, some business athletes or business CEOs as well. But he had the book, The Alter Ego Effect. Great book if you haven't watched it. But one of the things I learned from him and his 90-day year program is how to segment the times based on the value of the work. Because a lot of people just sit down and do things because they're just in front of them. But if you are able to put down on a piece of paper the task that you're doing, and you could have 4 different categories, sort of, again, you can make this up for where you want it, but you can do $20 task, $200 task, $2,000 task, and $20,000 task. And you should be really clear about what the $20 tasks are that you're doing. I was talking with a client the other day, and they have some things that they do to support others around the team, and they're just really small things. Other people could do it, but she does it because it's part of her job, she feels, but they're $20 level tasks. I think she needs to be really mindful of how much time she spends on those things. 1 or 2, maybe not the big, as long as it's not taking a lot of time. But if she's spending 30% of her time on these $20 tasks, it's going to be really hard to add value. So you want to list the task that you're doing from day to day as a $20 task, $200 task, $2,000, and $20,000. Now you might be asking yourself, what is this $2,000 and $20,000 task? The $200 task is it's just things where it requires your thinking, it requires your strategy and process, but it may not be the highest level work that you're doing. It's sort of in the middle of the highest level work. The $2,000 task, on the other hand, are the things that are really long-term focused. They are impacting in a big way. If you're working on a new marketing campaign that's going to drive millions of dollars, then it's either going to be a $2,000 task or a $20,000 task. And the difference between those are just really how much time are you spending on this, and the highest value work should be the $20,000 task. If you were working on a new strategic partnership that was worth, $10 million for the company, and you spent, 3 weeks equivalent time, not all together, but all the time added up, that's a lot of time that you're putting in, but it makes sense because the opportunity is so big. The idea behind Todd's time segments here is for you to be really present to how are you spending your time? $20 level work, $200 level work, $2,000 or $20,000. CEOs need to be spending more time in that $2,000 and $20,000 range. If you are having a one-on meeting with someone and that one-on-one allows that person to be more confident and make more decisions, that could be a $2,000 or a $20,000. You have to decide which work, but it's high value work is the point. That's where you want to focus your time. If you're booking your own travel for the next, conference you have coming up or the next trip, you probably could let someone else do it if you really wanted to. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, the best way I know is to use a time audit, to really step back and look at how you're spending your time, look at your calendar, and to document this going forward over 2 weeks. The time audit will give you some insights. You're looking for patterns. You might ask yourself, inside this, what do I need to stop doing? Or maybe you create a not to do list. Recently did a workshop with a bunch of CEOs, and it was a new concept for them, the not to do list. Everyone has a to do list. None of a single one of them had a not to do list. And as you grow and evolve as a leader, that list should grow. And if you're really clear and present about it, you're going to be able to write it down. Maybe you don't order your own lunch anymore. Maybe you have someone that delivers the meals for you. And when you get optimized around this, you want to make sure that you really are clear. So you're looking at those patterns. Another thing that you can do with these time audits is look at the energy, look at the focus, and optimize your life and day around when you have the most energy and the most focus with the highest value work. I call this my hours of genius. It's a little separate video that I can put together for some time about how you identify that. But the short version is many people are in the morning, they have the highest level of capacity to think and be creative and make decisions. And it wanes over the day. Some people, it spikes in the middle of the day. Some people, it spikes in the evening. But for most people, it spikes in the morning. So the idea in the hours of genius is for you to put your highest value work. Now, in the time audit, I'm not asking you to change the way you do things, but I just want you to be mindful of when you are at your highest focused and you, on a regular basis, you have that energy, or doing things that gives you energy, and you can decide what you need to stop doing. You can decide where you are focused, and you can use this to zoom out on your actions and behaviors to really give yourself some insight. Nothing takes the place of coaching. This tool is great, but it doesn't talk back to you. It doesn't challenge you. And when I'm working with clients, I have to challenge them all the time on, is it really, $2,000 work? Is it really $20,000 work, or is it really give you energy? And that is the value of my work. But I share this with you because I want to make sure that I'm putting the tools in the hands of people that want to play at the most optimal level. If you want to raise your performance, you want to really push it to that next level, then use the time audit to help you do that. You can do this the easy way with a notebook. You can do it the more technical way with in your calendar, or you can do it kind of in the middle with some type of spreadsheet or Google document where you organize these things. I would suggest that you do this for 2 weeks, really commit to doing it. Track everything that you do professionally. You may even track the things that you're doing personally. Track your naps. If you take a nap, I don't get to take naps, not a part of my day, but when do you stop work? What are you doing in the evening that allows you to recharge the most? And just be mindful of those things so that you can really strategize and optimize your time, your energy, your focus to create what you're trying to create. And this works for CEOs, this works for frontline managers, and even people who don't even have jobs. I think this works, and it's a really useful tool that I share with you. The time audit tool will change the way you look at your own time. You'll focus on the more valuable things. You'll prioritize better. There's so many other questions that I could give you to support you around this, but I wanted to keep this video fairly short to support you through whatever phase you're going through. If you want to stop the feeling of overwhelm, stop feeling behind, this is the tool, the time audit. My name is Gene Hammett. I work with amazing, powerful CEOs. And if you want to grow your business, you want to create predictable growth, then I would love to talk to you and get to know you. My private practice is full right now. We are taking a waiting list. We do work with teams in different ways through leadership development. And so if there's anything like that we can help you with, please let us know. As always, when you think of leadership and you think of growth, think Think Tank. Lead with courage. We'll see you next time.